It was Halloween night, and my neighborhood had finally gone quiet. Decorations flickered in the cold wind, and I was about to shut the porch lights off when I noticed a lone trick-or-treater standing at the end of my driveway. He wore a dirty pumpkin mask, no costume, just a black hoodie and jeans. He didn't move, didn't wave, just stared at me like he'd been waiting for the house to go silent. I tried to laugh it off and waved him over. He slowly drifted forward, each step deliberate, never breaking eye contact through those dark holes in the mask. When he reached the bottom stair, he whispered, "Trick or treat," but the voice was rung far too low to be a kid. I handed him candy, hoping he'd leave, but he didn't turn away. Instead, his head tilted as if studying me. Then he asked, "Are you home alone?" Default text my chest tightened. No trick-or-treater asks that. I stepped back and slowly closed the door. For a minute, I watched through the window. He didn't move, didn't breathe, just stood there like a statue. Finally, he walked away, but around 11:30 p.m., I heard footsteps on my porch again. I checked the peephole, nothing. Then came 3 taps on my bedroom windows, low, deliberate, and far too high for a child to reach. I grabbed a flashlight and peeked through the blinds. The pumpkin-masked figure was pressed against the glass, breathing fog onto it. I yelled and grabbed my phone, and instantly he bolted into the darkness, moving unnaturally fast. Then I became unconscious. On next morning, I came to know that the lady next door is dead, and she was home alone too. Our next story comes from Tara, a college senior living in a student apartment complex. Her neighbor Chase was known for massive Halloween parties. But this year, the hallway was silent. No music, no guests. Then, at 8 p.m., someone banged on her door hard. When she opened it, a man in a bloody surgeon costume stumbled in the hall asking, "Where's the party?" She pointed to Chase's apartment, which stood slightly open. Hours later, Tara realized something strange. She hadn't seen a single person enter or leave that apartment. At midnight, her friend arrived. As they walked past Chase's door, they noticed it was still open, just a crack, with a faint flicker inside. Tara pushed it gently. The apartment was empty, no people, no music, just a single lit pumpkin on the counter. On the floor was the surgeon guy's phone, unlocked, wallpaper showing his face. The apartment didn't look lived in at all. Furniture covered in sheets, dust thick on the floor, no clothes in closets, no food. It looked abandoned for months. Yet Tara had spoken to Chase just a week before. When police arrived, they searched everything. They found his wallet, backpack, and some chargers, but no Chase. No costumed man. The landlord claimed no one had rented the unit since summer. Chase wasn't on any lease. Security footage added another disturbing layer. At 7:52 p.m., the surgeon costume man walked toward Chase's apartment. At 7:53 p.m., he entered. He never came out. The next day, the door was closed and the pumpkin gone. The unit was labeled vacant again. Yet every year on Halloween, Tara swears she sees a faint flicker under that same door, though the apartment remains officially empty. No one wants to know what's still inside. Our final story comes from Jordan, who worked part-time clearing a Halloween forest trail after closing. Around 10:45 p.m., fog still lingered when he saw a new display. 3 figures in old, filthy clothing standing around a tree. Their faces were pale, eyes hollow, too realistic, too detailed. Jordan radioed in asking who set them up, but got no response. As he stepped closer, he froze. Their hands looked real, human, not props. Before he could move, the tallest figure exhaled a slow, rattling breath. Jordan stumbled back. They weren't mannequins at all. Then a voice whispered behind him, "They're not part of the attraction." It was a teenage girl, terrified, mud on her face. She said the figures had followed her through the trail, whispering. Jordan grabbed her hand and ran. Behind them, footsteps grew faster, closing in as they reached the parking lot lights. Jordan turned to see the tree line. 3 figures stood at the edge, motionless, watching. We searched but found nothing, no footprints, no costumes. A week later, rangers found 3 human-like footprints deep in the woods, ending at a tree with no exit trail. Every Halloween after, visitors reported tall, silent shapes in old clothes staring from the shadows. Jordan quit the job, but he still dreams of the figures breathing behind him. Some nights, he swears he hears footsteps outside his window slow, synchronized, like those 3 shapes walking in perfect unity. The town shut the trail down, claiming budget cuts. Locals know the truth. Something waits in those woods every Halloween night. But the story doesn't end with Jordan. Months later, a group of teens snuck into the abandoned trail. Only 2 returned. They claimed the woods went unnaturally silent and they saw pale shapes standing between the trees. One teen said a cold hand grabbed his shoulder, but nothing was behind him. They fled, leaving their friend behind. Search teams found the missing teen's phone near the old trail. The final video showed shaky footage of trees, fog, and 3 tall silhouettes slowly closing in. The last frame was a close-up of a pale face inches from the lens. Police said it was distorted lighting. The town buried the case. Locals avoid the forest entirely now. On the anniversary of the disappearance, the 2 surviving teens heard tapping at their window's light, rhythmic, familiar. One swore he saw 3 tall figures standing across the street, perfectly still under a streetlight. When police came, the shapes were gone, leaving only deep footprints in the grass. The trail remains sealed off permanently. Now, whether you believe these stories or not, Halloween has a way of revealing things that stay hidden the rest of the year. A knocked door, a flickering light, figures that move when they shouldn't. Every Halloween, someone reports seeing a masked stranger or silent watchers in the woods, and too often the police find nothing. But remember this, every story here came from someone who lived it. The masked trick-or-treater still hasn't been caught. Chase's apartment remains empty, but lights flicker inside every Halloween. And the forest trail, rangers say, they still hear footsteps behind them during nightly patrols, even when no one else is there. Halloween draws strange things, people who hide behind masks for reasons far darker than candy. Places that seem normal until night falls, and shadows that don't belong to anything human. So if you're out this Halloween and notice someone staring too long or following too quietly, remember these stories. Leave before you're alone. If you hear tapping on your window, don't open the blinds. If you see a door cracked open that shouldn't be, don't step inside. And if you ever find figures standing perfectly still in the dark, watching you, don't investigate. Turn around, walk away, and don't look back. Curiosity is how most of these stories began. Because the truth is, Halloween isn't dangerous because of ghosts or monsters. It's dangerous because the masks make it impossible to know who's human and who's pretending. And sometimes the ones pretending don't take their costumes off when the night ends. Stay safe this Halloween, because these stories aren't just stories. They're warnings. The hallway stretched ahead, lights flickering like dying fireflies. As I crept forward, my phone buzzed again, another photo. This time, it showed the end of the corridor, but now a dark silhouette stood there, tall and rigid. My breath hitched. I looked up from the screen. The hallway was empty. But the photo insisted otherwise. The figure still staring, as if waiting for me to move closer. I tried to steady my breathing, but the air felt heavier with every step. The silence around me was unnatural, thick. My phone buzzed once more, and against my better judgment, I checked it. The silhouette was closer now, halfway down the corridor. Its limbs seemed too long, its head tilted unnaturally. I slowly backed away, but each backward step only made the buzzing grow faster in my hand. I shoved the phone into my pocket and sprinted toward the exit. My footsteps echoed loudly, bouncing off the walls. Suddenly, the lights above me shut off one by one, chasing me in darkness. I reached the stairwell door and slammed into it, pushing myself through. As the door swung closed, something heavy thudded against the other side, as if something or someone had followed me. The stairwell was dim, lit only by a weak emergency bulb that flickered with every vibration. I rushed downward, gripping the rail as my legs shook. A cold whisper drifted from above, a soft dragging sound that grew louder with each floor I passed. I didn't dare look back. I burst through the bottom door into the parking lot, gasping for air, desperate for any sign of normalcy. The lot was empty. The wind hissed through the cracked asphalt, pushing an abandoned candy wrapper across the ground. I hurried to my car and fumbled with the keys. As I unlocked the door, my phone buzzed again. I shouldn't have checked, but I did. The newest photo showed me standing beside my car, and behind me, the silhouette, closer than ever, its hand reaching toward my shoulder. I spun around instantly, but the lot was empty. Cold wind rattled the asphalt. Hard hammering, I jumped into my car and locked the doors. My headlights flickered, and far at the edge of the lot, a tall, shadowy figure stood, unmoving, watching. Its presence pressed in, silent yet oppressive, like it understood my fear and was waiting for the exact moment to strike. The engine roared to life. I shifted into reverse, but a heavy thud slammed onto my trunk. The car shook violently under the weight. Panic surged. I didn't look back. I stomped the gas, swerving wildly. The weight slid off with a deafening crash onto the asphalt behind me. Every heartbeat screamed to escape. But in the darkness, I sensed it had not left, only paused, waiting. I sped out of the parking lot, shaking. The streets were empty, dimly lit. I thought I had escaped. Then my phone buzzed. Against all instinct, I checked it. A photo appeared, my car speeding. But in the frame, the figure was in the road ahead, impossibly close, standing perfectly still. My blood ran cold. It had somehow teleported, waiting silently for me to panic again. I slammed on the brakes, skidding to a halt. The figure was gone. I sat frozen, hands gripping the wheel. Another photo appeared on my phone, taken inside my back seat. My stomach twisted. My breath came in shallow gasps as I fumbled for the lock button. Every instinct screamed to run. I couldn't look, couldn't move, but I knew something had already entered my car. Before I could react, the back seat creaked. The air grew icy. My breath fogged. Something leaned closer. My phone buzzed one last time. The final photo showed the silhouette inches from my neck, hollow eyes fixed on me. I flung the door open and bolted into the night, leaving the car behind. Darkness swallowed the lot, but I knew it was still there, waiting for the next Halloween victim.